Today is Saturday, August 14th, 2010, just after 8 p.m. And I hope all of you are having a great weekend. So we're looking at the S&P 500 cash market here. This is a 5-year weekly chart. And there's going to be some analysis on what happened last week and what we're going to expect coming into next week. So as you can see here, each candle is 1 week, and last week was quite bearish. Sellers really came in, pushed price down, and they kind of did that, through the end of the week there with a very bearish close. Now, one thing I want to point out real quick here is there's a potential head and shoulders pattern setting up with the left shoulder, the head, and then the right shoulder here. And if that does play out, we would need to see a break of this neckline, which would essentially, give us a projected move. Somewhere, I'm just eyeballing this, somewhere in this 900 area. But again, we do have pretty strong support in this 925 to 950 area. So being more conservative, I do think we would see a move down to there. Again, that's a little bit more long term, and we'll have to see how that plays out. But that is something that you should always keep in mind when you are taking these, even these week moves. Keeping the broad trend in mind, or what could potentially happen, is pretty important. But again, until we do see that break below here and that pattern is confirmed, there's no need to be overly bearish because we do have this very massive uptrend in place. So let's go down to a 2-year daily chart and get some more information, see what's happening in the near-term time frame. And let's plot some lines on here, and you can see that last week we talked about this trend line going through here, and as we also talked about these lower wicks here, these swing points. So we're talking about any sort of breach here, and also a close below both the trend line and swing point would be pretty bearish. That's exactly what we got. We had a nice clean break here, and sellers managed to sell all the way through the session with a nice, or rather a very bearish close. Nice would be your interpretation of which side you're on, but anyways, there was some good follow through the end of the week here. So looking at price now, pretty much what I see is we came up to this 1130 area, there was rejection, and we broke the near-term trend, and at this point we're sort of in between zones, so we're kind of in the middle of the range. Personally, at this point, I'd be waiting for either a pullback here to continue with the with this selling momentum to the downside, or I'd wait for price to come back to this support level and a potential bounce. So for me, I'd be sitting on my hands at this point, just kind of waiting it out. But if you are more aggressive, then this might be something for you to trade. But that's really up to you. So in terms of trades from last week, this was one that really caught my eye that I thought was a wonderful setup, and it was Tesoro. This is a oil refiner. So you can see here we do have a rising trend line, and price managed to breach that. Came back and tagged it the first time, and then we had another opportunity to short it here on a second touch. And again, we did have this downward sloping trend line coming through here, which we almost tagged, but we did consolidate here before we finally broke down. Now we are at near-term support on this one, but there is some potential good-sized downside move actually. Looking at this 10.5 mark, that's going to be good support, and then if we do manage to break through that, we have this lower trend line. And then finally we have these all-time lows down here around 6.5 from, let's say, November. So that's a pretty good, good risk to reward. If we did have a stop above here and a break below, it could potentially turn into a runner. But again, we do have these near-term support levels, so I have to watch this closely, see how it pans out. The other one that I'm looking at for next week is AT&T. And as you can see here, we had a potential head and shoulders pattern, right? Shoulder, head, shoulder. And on a break of this right shoulder, we actually failed this pattern. So what does that mean? Well, there's a lot of people in here who probably got in short early, thinking that we would see continuation to the downside, moving to this trend line, or if not lower. But instead, they got a rude awakening in some sense when price, breached this level and get a little short squeeze going. So if the markets do continue to move down next week, I'd expect AT&T to follow, with that. And if I do see price setting up in this area, I would consider a buy on this one. Now, one thing to keep in mind, or probably does, adds to the bullish case, is for those of you who are more indicator-based traders, it's not my style, but I do, look at them once in a while. Over here we do have the 20-period moving average, which is a pretty popular moving average that a lot of people watch to determine not only trend but also entries. So a pullback into this area of support would also coincide with this moving average, right, in 26.10 to 26.30 area. We could expect some more buyers to jump in and take this to the upside there. So that's one more thing that adds to the favor of the buyers. And the other one I found interesting was Goldman Sachs. Looking at this, we had a pretty considerable topping pattern, and we managed to break down, test it, and instead of following through, we actually managed to breach past that and go to the next level of resistance. So now what happens is when price comes back down, what was resistance is now support. So if we do see some bullish movement in this market, I would imagine we do manage to break through the swing point, and the next logical place for resistance after that is going to be this 168 area. And on the other hand, if we do manage to break down, we do have this trend line coming up, and then on a break of this swing point, to my eye, it more or less looks like free fall for a little bit. So this one should be an interesting one that you could play in either direction depending on what the market gives you. So that's pretty much it for my analysis on U.S. equities for now. If you do have any stocks you'd like to see, feel free to leave them in the comments, and I'll, if I do get a chance, I'll go over them. But good luck next week, and thanks for watching. MugTrading.tk.